Hi folks, HR Funk here with another one-box training video, and this time around it's going to be geared toward pistol caliber carbines. Now if you saw the video I made a couple of weeks ago, you know in that video I tried to come up with a set of drills for the defensive pistol shooter that would maximize the training value he or she could get from one 50-round box of ammunition. Now I've done the same thing with pistol caliber carbines. And in this video I'm going to show you the drills that I came up with to try to help in that endeavor. And also, as I perform each one, I'll explain my thinking behind them and why I included that particular drill in this video. Now, one thing, just as I said in the last video for pistols, these drills are for the average defensive shooter. They are not for law enforcement officers, they're not for military personnel, and they're not for competitive shooters. If you fall into one of those categories, these drills are probably going to seem very basic to you. But since they are geared toward the defensive shooter, and typically I would expect the pistol caliber carbine in a defensive role to be used inside the home. The reason I say that is because most defensive shooters, as they go about their daily lives, do not carry around something like this as they're going to work or going to the store or going wherever. If they're going to carry a firearm, usually in that role they're carrying some sort of handgun. So I see the pistol caliber carbine as something that's going to have a home defense role if it's used in a defensive capacity. For that reason, the distances you're going to see in these drills are not terribly long. Now I know pistol caliber carbines are capable of extending the distance of the pistol cartridges they chamber over and above what you typically expect with handguns. But since we're looking at a defensive role for this type of firearm, and helping me today, by the way, is this PTR 9CT. As you can see, a carbine length PTR 9CT. And since we're looking at it again in the defensive role, we're going to see distances that are 15 feet, 20 feet, things like that, basically across the room type distances. Now I am going to have one extended range stage, and when I get to that one, I'll explain my thoughts behind it. But with all that out of the way, let's take a look at the drills that I came up with to get the most out of one 50-round box of ammunition with your pistol caliber carbine. Now, similar to the first drill that I came up with for the handguns, the first drill for the pistol caliber carbines is going to be intended to test and reinforce your basic marksmanship principles and also test your system, specifically the sights, to make sure everything is still on from the last time you shot it. And for this drill, I would say pick a distance as far as practically you can away from the target, and if you need to, you can fire this from a resting position, resting on bags. I would say don't shoot it from a seated bench position because you're probably not going to be shooting that way in a defensive situation. But if you want to rest it against a barricade or the side of some other object, or get into a position where you can rest it some other way as you're naturally behind it, or your shooting eye is naturally behind the sight, go ahead and do that to steady yourself, because in this exercise all we're doing again is reinforcing those basic marksmanship skills and also making sure the sights are still on. For my purposes, I'm going to shoot this from 50 yards because that's a convenient distance for me on this range, and then we'll move on from there to some more advanced exercises. And here we go. In this first drill, I'm only going to be firing 5 rounds, and the idea is to fire 5 rounds slow fire as accurately as you possibly can. Since we're only firing 5 rounds, we really need to get the most out of these that we can, so make sure you're taking your time and squeezing off good accurate shots. There is no time limit on this stage, and like I said, I'm going to shoot it from a distance of 50 yards, but you shoot it from whatever maximum distance you think is most applicable for your circumstances. And based upon those first 5 shots, I would say everything is on well enough to proceed to the more defensive-oriented drills. For our first defensive drill, I'm going to be shooting from a distance of 10 feet from the target. And the idea behind this drill is to simulate a situation where the defensive shooter encounters a lethal threat at very close distance, and the idea is to get shots on target as quickly as possible. So I'm going to begin in a low ready position, and on a signal to fire, I'm going to fire 2 rounds into the body of the target in a time limit of 2 seconds. I am going to be using my shot timer for this. And 2 seconds is sort of a generic time limit. As you get better and better at this drill, I expect that you're going to reduce that time limit. I doubt that I'm going to take 2 seconds to fire my pairs of shots, but I'm going to fire them as fast as I believe I reasonably can to keep accurate shots on target. This drill is going to be repeated twice, so when I'm done, I will fire a total of 6 rounds. And those pairs were all fired in a time of about 1 second for each pair of shots. The next drill is going to be a multiple target exercise. And in this exercise, I'm going to have one target at 10 feet away and the other target at 15 feet away. Again, I'm going to start in a low ready position, and on the signal to fire, I'm going to put 3 rounds on the closest target and then 3 rounds on the farthest target. Then I'm going to repeat this exercise, and the second time through, I'll first put 3 rounds on the farther target and then 3 rounds on the closer target. Both times through, the time limit is going to be 4.5 seconds. For the next exercise, I'm going to be shooting from behind cover. Now for the defensive shooter, imagine this as being a door frame or a large bookcase or something like that in your home that you'd be using for cover, and the target is going to be at a distance of 20 feet. Each time I get the signal to fire, I'm going to lean out around cover and fire 2 rounds into the body of the target in a time limit of 2.5 seconds for each pair, and I'm going to perform this drill twice from the right side of cover and then twice from the left side of cover. In case you wondered, yes, from the left-hand side of the barricade, I was shooting left-handed and using my left eye to aim because that minimizes the amount of my body that I'm exposing from behind cover. For the next drill, I'm once again going to be firing from behind cover, but this time I'm going to be shooting a multiple target drill. I'm also again going to be shooting from the right side of the barricade and the left side of the barricade, and I'm going to engage the target as they come into view when I come around the barricade. So from the right side of the barricade, as I come around, the right target will come into view first, and I'll engage that target with 2 rounds, and then as I move farther around, the target on the left is going to come into view, and I'm going to engage it with 2 rounds. Then, when I shoot the drill from the left-hand side, I'm going to come around the left side. The left-hand target will come into view first, so I'll engage that one with 2 rounds, and then as I move farther, the right target will come into view, and I'll engage that one with 2 rounds. As I start this exercise, it's a little difficult to put a time limit on it because there's going to be shooting and then moving, and you don't want to rush this. You actually want to scan for additional threats. So it's going to be a fairly generous time limit. To put 2 rounds on each target from the signal to fire, I'm going to go with a time limit of 10 seconds, which is a long time, but again, I'm looking more at engaging these targets properly rather than trying to rush my way through the drill. And if I didn't say it before, this target, the one on the left, is at 10 feet from the barricade, and the one on the other side is 15 feet from the barricade. Also, because of my target placement relative to the barricade, I'm not going to be able to have my camera in front of the barricade looking back toward it, because if I do, I might blow my camera to smithereens. So I'm going to set the camera off to the side, and you'll be able to see what I'm doing. I'll shoot my way through the drill, and then after I'm done, we'll come up and take a look at the targets and see where the shots hit. By the way, folks, you notice as I'm doing this, I'm staying well behind cover as I'm moving out and scanning for targets. I'm not pressing the barrel or muzzle of my carbine up beyond cover because this area is an unknown threat. If bad guy number 3 is right here and you can't see him and he grabs your firearm, as soon as you start to come around here, you might be in a close-up fight with somebody and trying to keep hold of this firearm rather than being back here and engaging the other hostile targets. And for everyone who's curious, here's where those shots landed. On the 20-foot target, these are the 2 from the right side, and these are the 2 from the left side of cover. And on the 15-foot target, well, those are all close enough together that I don't know which ones are which, but I don't think it makes that much difference either. The next exercise is also going to be fired from a position of cover, but this time it's going to be a position of low cover. And for the home defender, just like I said with the handgun drills, this is a simulated situation where you're taking cover behind a dresser or a workbench or anything else in your home that might stop incoming fire from getting to you, while at the same time you're returning effective shots on target. So from this position, or actually what I'm going to do in this drill is I'm going to start from a standing position. On signal to fire, I'm going to drop into a dealing position and fire 2 rounds from the right-hand side of cover, then 2 rounds over top of cover, and then 2 rounds from the left-hand side of cover. And when I get to the left-hand side of cover, yes, once again, I'm going to be shooting those shots left-handed and using my left eye to aim. And the time limit for this, again, it's going to be 10 seconds. That sounds like a very generous time limit, and it is, but with all the moving and changing of the firearm as you go from position to position, again, the emphasis on this drill is getting effective shots on target and making effective use of your cover, not rushing through the drill and just spraying the bullets as fast as you can and hoping they go someplace that you want them to go. By the way, folks, on this drill, I was intentionally keeping these shots low. I'm a little bit paranoid on this range, particularly shooting from a kneeling position, about putting a shot or a bullet over top of the backstop. So for safety's sake, I keep these shots low when I'm firing from that position. For the last stage of our one-box training course, I'm going to be firing a long-range exercise. Now, you may remember back at the very beginning of the video that I mentioned that it would be very unlikely that the defensive shooter would be legally justified in taking a long-range shot and claiming it was in self-defense. There is one exception to that that I can think of, and that is not involving a human threat, but rather threats from wildlife. If you live somewhere where you have to be concerned with maybe feral dogs or coyotes or mountain lions or what have you, and you have pets or small children or livestock that might be in a backyard or in a pasture field or what have you, you could have a situation where they could be threatened by that wildlife and you might have to take a long-range shot in defense of your children or wildlife or pets or whatever. So for that reason, I'm going to be firing one 5-shot exercise from long range, and I'm going to fire this from 50 yards. I would say for you, pick whatever distance you think is most likely reasonable that you would have to take this kind of a shot. Now, unlike the drill we did at the very beginning where we were working purely on marksmanship and trying to make sure that our system was okay and our sights were on and all that, this time we're most concerned about putting accurate shots on target. So I'm going to be using something to steady myself as I fire these 5 shots, and I recommend you do the same thing. I don't think in a situation where you're having to take a long-range shot to defend a child or your pet or whatever, that you're going to want to just come up and take a snapshot and hope for the best. So I'm going to be using this utility pole right here because it's conveniently placed about 50 yards from my target, and I'm going to get down behind it. I'm going to be using it to stabilize the carbine and fire out 5 rounds as accurately as I can. My time limit for this, and there will be a time limit on this, is going to be 12 seconds for those 5 rounds. And there you have it, folks, another one-box training course, this time for the pistol caliber carbine. Now, just like I said the last time around with the handguns, don't take these drills as absolutes, and don't look at the time limits or the distances or anything like that as written in stone, because they're not. Feel free to modify anything about these drills so they work best for your own personal circumstance. And that's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you order anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 5% off anything you purchase from Optics Planet. See you next time, folks. Until then, good shooting. Bye-bye.